Hey guys, it's Dee. So this video is going to be a little different from the ones I usually do. I am currently away from home, so I don't have the equipment that I normally use to film, but I had something that's been on my mind for a while. I've been processing, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I'm hoping that I can learn something from some of you if you guys have been through something similar. So today's video, I'm going to talk about one of the most important things that helped me move on from the trauma that I had experienced as a child. So, just heads up, I'm going to start out with sharing some of the general types of abuse that I've seen and experienced myself, and the age range of how old I was at the time that those happened. So if that is something that is sensitive to you, like I'm just giving you the heads up now. Um, so I had a healthy childhood all the way up to the age of 7. And so for me, I got to see the stark differences between what was healthy and what was not beforehand. And I know not everybody gets that opportunity. So I wanted to throw that out there. I ended up in a situation where my parent was a single parent at the time, and the person that they chose to date and marry had abusive behaviors and issues with alcohol. So I, as a result, ended up seeing a lot of physical violence, a lot of psychological and emotional abuse. I also went through those things myself, and I also am a survivor of sexual abuse too. And I remember when I went through these times from like when I was 7 all the way till I was 19. Um, I felt very low about myself. So another trigger warning, I'm going to share just briefly how deep my depression was. So if that is something you are sensitive to, like skip this part too. But I remember how my depression was so bad at the time. Like, I hated myself. I really thought that there was something wrong with me, that everything that was happening to me was my fault, and that I'd be better off either being used as a tool or not being here. That's a pretty jacked up feeling. I remember those lows. And as I started to be on my own and start the healing process from some of that stuff, there was one thing that I found that really helped me become the person that I am now. So now I don't hate myself. It took years to get to that point, but I don't hate myself. I actually really love myself. And I'm finally at a point now where I'm taking a stand for what I will and won't accept as far as behaviors from other people, which, if you've been through a similar thing like me, you know how difficult that is. It can be really intimidating. So, I wanted to share the most important thing for me that helped me move forward and start healing from those years of trauma. And for me, that actually was forgiveness. And I'm not talking the like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Or, oh, we're forgetting about it. No, no, I'm talking about complete and true forgiveness of the entire situation. I found that for me, um, forgiveness is for myself. I don't forgive people for the other person. That's not my job. That's not my responsibility. And it's not within my control. But I forgive the other person for myself. I'm not going to go and continue to carry on baggage from stuff that the other person may have, for all I know, moved on with. And I just felt like I deserved better than that. So I found that forgiveness was not a quick, oh, yeah, that's okay, that event happened. No, because it wasn't. Not at all. But what I found that also is that forgiveness seems to happen in pieces, which I found very interesting. I wrote out a bunch of notes, so I'm just, if you see me glancing away, that's what I'm reading. For me, forgiveness is not forgetting what happened. It's not saying that it's okay, because it's not. It's saying more, being more along the lines of, it happened, and I'm not going to let it stop me from living my life. But I hope that the other person genuinely heals and moves forward. Because when someone hurts you, it's because they're hurting themselves too. And you have to really mean that. Like if you are sitting there holding grudges or resentful because someone did or didn't do something, you have not forgiven them. And that's partially why you would still feel like you have a ton of weight, because you're adding on this extra baggage that you don't need. So, for me, I actually felt like I was processing the same thing over and over. Like just one event, I'm like, I thought I was past this. Like I'm thinking I'm good, right? And then years later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not completely over this. What is going on? Am I just never going to be able to like move on? Like what the heck? And through years of therapy, I have learned that you don't forgive everything at once. In order to truly be able to heal, you have to forgive yourself and you have to forgive the other person. Then you have to go and break down every single little event that bothered you, right? And you can forgive parts of what they did or didn't do, but not others. And it's not a timeline you can just go and control. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't make yourself go and move on from all this stuff and be like, oh yeah, I'm over it within like a few days. It happens on your time and on your schedule. And you have to respect that in the safe way that your brain will help you process it. And so for me, that took years. Like I could forgive certain parts of the abuse faster than others. And I've still continued working at it because I found that for me, I felt so much lighter the more I processed it. Every time I went and processed a different part of the event or the person, like I felt lighter. Every time I started forgiving aspects of myself and not being judgmental and like just plain mean to myself, I felt better. I felt lighter. And it was so much easier to be able to start teaching myself that positive stuff, like loving yourself and taking care of yourself. And I personally feel like forgiveness is the ultimate act of self-love. So, it's interesting because before I could forgive any of the things I went through or any of the people, I had to go and grieve that it happened. Like, I was not at a stage of acceptance on some of this stuff. And so when I finally reached that acceptance, then I was able to go and forgive. But I had to go through the entire grieving process first. And I already made a video about the grieving process. It uses a different example, more of getting a new diagnosis, but I think the concepts still apply. So I'm going to leave a link for that in the description box below if you wanted to check that video out. But once I made it to the acceptance stage, then I can truly start to forgive, and it's a process. So I have to forgive myself, everything that I did or didn't do for that event. Then I have to go and forgive that it happened. Then I have to go and forgive the aftermath of it, like all the things that happened as a result of it. Then there's forgiving the other person what they did and didn't do and the results of all of that. And it's not going to be a straight line thing, it's going to be in bits and pieces. It's going to be all over the place. It feels like a mess. But it is so worth it to get peace again. So I wouldn't trade it for the world. I don't care how many years it takes for me to get past all the things that I've been through. I have much more hope and optimism in the future now than I did when I was a teenager. I look at pictures of myself as a teenager and I see trauma face, completely flat affect, like I look dead inside. I don't have that as often. Sometimes I do if I'm in a bad place, but like if you look at a lot of my pictures, you don't see that as much anymore, if at all. And I'm still processing and going through and getting through this trauma, but I have processed a lot of it and I feel so much better because of it. And it's interesting because, like, the only way that you can really start to forgive and heal that emotional pain that you're feeling is to safely go through it. You can't force yourself and rush it. If your brain is not ready to process it, your brain ain't ready to process it. And you know what? That's okay. It'll hurt. You can get impatient about it, and that's okay. And you don't have to go through it alone. One of my biggest mistakes that I did for years because of it, the things I've went through, is I isolated myself. I didn't reach out for help. I just basically wallowed in a ball somewhere, and I'm sure that took years off my life stress-wise. And I don't want you to make that same mistake if that's you that's going through this. You are not alone. There are Facebook support groups that you can join. I will be putting the crisis lines down in the description box in the event that that's something you need. Therapy has been so helpful. It's taken years worth of it, but it's been one of the best investments in my mind was to have a therapist and ask for help when I need it. I know it's difficult to do, but I want y'all to know that you are not alone. This is something that's just kind of been on my mind, and it's something I wanted to share. So now it is your turn. I would love to know in the comments, what have you learned from your experiences? Even if it's a trauma that like something like somebody passing away, it doesn't have to be we're in an abusive relationship or anything like that. Any sort of trauma, a car accident, something happening to a family member or a pet, or, losing a job, or, having to move somewhere. There's so many different types of traumas. So don't think that just because, I didn't have this particular experience that yours doesn't count. Don't minimize what you went through. I don't care who says anything else. So that's what I wanted to share. Like I said, this is a different video from my usual, and I hope to catch up with you guys later. I apologize if you guys are hearing a buzzing. I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to see y'all in the next video. Stay safe. Bye.